The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Daley. Here. Senator Ellison. Senator Krasner. Here. Senator Neal. Here. Senator Orenshaw.
Here. Present. Thank you, Madam. Shut it off on that. It's turning off and on. All right, it's back. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please let the record reflect all members are present and we have a quorum. To those of you in the audience and committee members, I want to remind you to please silence your cell phone. I am doing that as we speak myself. I want to remind everybody that we are simultaneously following along on our laptops. Please do not take that as a sign of disrespect. At times, folk are being called in out of meetings. Sometimes members will have to walk out. Please know again that they are not doing that intentionally. We're just trying to make 14 things happen at once. For today, we have several presentations. We're going to go in the order they appear on the agenda, and then we'll close out with public comment. As a reminder, and particularly for those of you who are parents, we do intend to cancel our meeting on Friday so that you may plan your agenda accordingly and hopefully spend some time with your families. We will be back in this committee room on Wednesday at 3:30. With that, I'd like to go ahead and open up the presentation by the City of Las Vegas. And I believe I saw them getting all their stuff ready. And they promised that it would be the most spectacular slideshow in the history of government affairs. And we are ready for that. Whenever you're ready.
No pressure. Thank you, Chair Flores, for inviting us up here. My name is Sabra Newby. I am one of the Deputy City Managers for the City of Las Vegas. And with me, I have Kelly Crompton, our Government Affairs Manager, who will be working on my PowerPoint and advancing that for me. All right, so the City Council of the City of Las Vegas is comprised of 7 individuals. We have a new mayor. You may have heard of her before. Her name is Mayor Shelley Berkeley. And then we have 6 council members, each elected from their own ward. And it's interesting to note that fully 5 of our 7 members have been, at some point, legislators right here at the Nevada Legislature. We have a council manager form of government, and essentially what that means is that the voters elect our policy makers, the mayor and the city council, and then we have a professional city manager and professional staff that run the city. And so what I like to use as an analogy is that it's kind of like a bicycle where the mayor and city council are the handlebars. They steer the organization in the direction that they want it to go. When there's a fork in the road, they pick which way they want the city to go, and then the manager and deputy city managers and all of the staff are kind of like the wheels and the pedals and the gears, and we make the bike go in the direction that it's being steered by our electeds in that policy format. We have a very diverse city, as you can see here on this slide. This is the landmass of the city of Las Vegas. It is 142,000 square miles. And as you can see, very diverse. We're very proud of that. And our population is just about 670,000 right now. One of the departments that we're very proud of, although it's hard to choose among children because all the departments are amazing, but is our Parks, Rec, and Culture department. We have 86 parks that we love to take care of that get over 12 million visitors annually. We have 15 community centers that attract over 360,000 individuals in 2024. And because we have a growing senior population, I think it's important to point out almost 15,000 participants in our adult active fitness classes. We also have a number of events that you may know and love, things like the Eldorado Days, the Book Festival, which is always a good time, and Day of the Dead celebrations. But down to where the rubber meets the road, literally, we have a public works department that also includes utilities. We maintain over 1,000 traffic signals, about 1,400 miles of paved roads, over 60,000 streetlights. And as I'm sure we're all appreciative of it, when you flush the toilet, the water goes down, and the city of Las Vegas treats over 17 billion gallons of wastewater every year. On to business and development. We like to think of ourselves as a very business-friendly city, and because of that, we issued over 4,700 business licenses in 2024 and over 3,600 building permits and 96,000 building inspections to get those buildings up, occupied, and businesses in them and operating. But when it really comes down to it, cities are based in, and their primary job is public safety, and we take that very seriously. Our public safety in fire is comprised of 22 fire stations that received over 100,000 calls in 2024. We also have city attorney's office that prosecuted over 16,000 criminal cases in Las Vegas Municipal Court and maintain over 23,000 fire hydrants. And from the recent news in California with their wildfires, fire hydrants really are the unsung heroes, and it's important to make sure that they are operating well. So in terms of staffing, the city of Las Vegas has about 3,800 employees, and that's been pretty steady in the last couple of years. You can see here in this chart the movement of employees over time back to 2016, and see that it's fluctuated, gone a little bit up, but not dramatically. And the thing that you'll also see is that public safety comprises over half of those, or almost half of those, that total number of employees, showing that public safety really is a primary focus for us. And you'll see later on another slide that it is also a primary driver of our expenses. On to the revenues, our budget at a glance in fiscal year 24, you can see that consolidated tax is the largest portion of that pie chart there at 56.3%. That is traditionally a bit higher than what we would normally see, but consolidated tax does come in at number 1, property tax in at number 2 at just under 20%, license and franchise fees just under 14%, and other at just about 10%. And onto our expenditures, as I alluded to a little bit earlier, public safety is the largest expenditure that we have at the city of Las Vegas. That is about 63% or $475 million. Obviously very important. And I will note that public safety for us and for this pie chart is not necessarily just our fire or just the marshals or the courts or the city attorney's office. This also includes the portion of our funding that goes to Las Vegas Metropolitan Police, which, as you know, is the police force that is shared between the city of Las Vegas and unincorporated Clark County. One of the questions I get a lot is, okay, Sabra, well, you've talked about some of your revenue streams that generally come from taxes or fees. What about grant funding? Are you actively out there trying to get grant funds for the city? And I think our answer is resoundingly yes. We actually have a team of folks who work on grants and report up to Ms. Crompton here, and they actively seek out the grants and provide grant opportunities to our departments as they come up for those departments to apply for. So last year we got 45 federal awards totaling over $77 million. Now, 80% of those are what we would call just a non-competitive grants, those would be things like CDBG, Home, and HOPWA, and grants like those that get sent to the local government based on usually a formula. But 20% of them are competitive and things that we went out and competed for and we received. We also go for non-federal awards, not as many of those, only 21, but we did receive a little over $1 million in those funds. And of course, not to be outdone, we also are fairly coordinated in going after the community project funding or congressionally directed spending. These are funding sources from Congress, and they are directed towards the city of Las Vegas. We submitted 17 applications for the 2025 year. 5 of those were in partnership with local nonprofits, because local nonprofits were not able to apply on their own, and so we partnered with them to do that. So those applications totaled about 43 million, almost 44 million. 9 projects were forwarded into the appropriations bills, and those projects, including one for one of our partners, totaled a little over $22 million if the appropriations bills ever get passed. Language access is another topic that we get a lot of questions on, and we do a lot in this area. Many offerings. Just here I've provided some of the high-level items that I think are most impactful, but the list is much longer than this. We do know that over 12% of our population is limited English proficient, and that over 80% of those are Spanish speakers as their primary language. So we do have a bilingual public information officer that helps out with all of our Spanish language items. And from that, we have a Spanish newsletter that goes out. We have City of Las Vegas TV, Channel 2, if you ever want to flip it on. It features content both in English and in Spanish. We also have a number of business incubator programs that are provided in Spanish as well. And just last year, we launched our Spanish language YouTube channel as well. So in addition to that, because we know that there are many individuals for whom limited English proficient, can't get that out for some reason, but Spanish is not their first language, we do translate our website and a number of our notices into other languages as well. And interestingly enough, I looked this up, that last year our website was translated over 330,000 times into a language other than English. So we know that there are folks out there looking for information, and they're getting it in their preferred language. On to the issue of homelessness. The city has long been a partner in this area, and we do have a number of offerings. I think some of you, if not many of you, have been able to tour some of our facilities and see some of those offerings, but they include, of course, the Courtyard Homeless Resources Center, the Recuperative Care Center, which is our facility for homeless individuals who are recovering from either an illness, hospitalization, maybe a surgery, right across the street from the Homeless Resource Center. We have Second Chance Employment Program, a Ticket to Home program. We have the Arrow Transportation Shuttle Service, and this is actually 3 fixed routes that start from the HRC, the Homeless Resource Center, and take individuals to various locations where they need to access some services. Those may be the Social Security Administration, could be a hospital, could be the DMV to get their documentation. We also have the multi-agency outreach engagement teams, or also called the MORE teams. We have 5 of those that are out in the community interacting with folks that are out there and needing services. And not just interacting with individuals who are already homeless, but we also have housing services that both try and prevent people from entering homelessness and help people exit that as well. And on top of the services that we directly provide, we also partner with local nonprofits and provide funding to them for their services. And we are looking to participate in the Campus for Hope with excellent effort and help from Clark County, and that should be coming up on our next city council agenda. Related to homelessness is obviously the issue that I know a lot of you are concerned about and interested in, affordable housing. We know that housing exists on a continuum and that there are many different products necessary for our population. We currently have almost 2,000 units under plan or underway right now with our current grants of over 14 million. That was in 2024. In 2019 through 2023, similarly, we were part of the assistance in developing 1,100 units at about $13 million. And while these funds don't fully cover the cost of every unit, we typically are able to fill some gaps in a sort of a stacked way that the developers can finance affordable housing. So we are very happy to fill that gap where we can. One of the things that we are very excited about, and one thing that I'm very excited about, is that our Neighborhood Services Department is currently working on a community land trust. And a community land trust really is something that we would, if established, would build equity for low-income qualified homeowners, and would also ensure that those properties are made affordable into the future. So what would happen is that a property would be within the community land trust, and the land would stay with the trust, but the home would be available for sale to a qualified buyer. The qualified buyer would purchase that home, live in it for a certain period of time, and when they went to sell it, they would be able to get some of that equity from that home to go on to their next property, and then some of the equity would remain with the property to make sure that it is still affordable into the future. Now, we put in here our bills that we have sponsored. City of Las Vegas gets 3 bills. I'm not going to go into depth because at least 2 of them you're going to see in this very committee. But Senate Bill 28 is concerning affordable housing. It allows the legal authority to support high-density transit-oriented projects. And it also allows us to expand our permit fee offsets, which we already use for certain affordable housing projects, to go from 60% area median income up to 120% area median income. Senate Bill 48 is our master plan clarity. It allows local governments across the state to more align their master plan as it relates to development of local communities. It cleans up language and brings that into focus for Clark County. Currently, the consistency standard is set forth for 16 of 17 counties. And finally, Senate Bill 54 is our recuperative care or respite care bill, and this has to do with our RCC, our Recuperative Care Center. This is the bill that probably won't be coming before this committee. It would establish a Medicaid code for medical respite care, which is the care that we give to individuals as they are recovering from their illness or wound care or whatever brings them to us. For you and I, when we get out of the hospital after we've had a surgery, we go home and we put on Netflix for the next week, and I would call my husband to bring me soup and such. But for someone who doesn't have a home, there is no bed or Netflix. There's sometimes very harsh conditions that can cause those wounds and issues to get worse. So this would allow the state to fund that through Medicaid for those individuals in that facility who are eligible. And the final slide, of course, we have a team of folks. The city manager couldn't be with us today, but his name is Mike Jansen. I'm always available as well, and we have our Carson City team and our Carson City contract lobbyists as well that are always available and at your disposal. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And thank you for that presentation. Members, before we jump into questions, just as a reminder, as always, I'd like that we refrain from asking anything pertaining to the bills referenced themselves, as we'll have an opportunity to vet those at a later time. Questions? Senator Ellison, please.
Chair, I do have one, and that's on affordable housing. At the top, it says top issue, and it's on page 8, at the very top, and it says current has 1,970 affordable housing units under development, and we're supporting a part of 14,122,000 in grants. Is the city of city of Las Vegas actually doing the grants, or is there a different agency that's controlling this? That's my one question, and the other one is a follow-up by, just follows the same thing, is with these units being built, these are contractors that are borrowing the money to build the facilities, and did they pay that back, or is it strictly a grant?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Flores, to Senator Ellison. These funds are typically some of them of the funds that we receive as sort of block grant funding. It's our CDBG, generally our home, our HOPWA, which is Housing for Persons with AIDS. And so those are the funds that we get, and yes, we then grant them out to particular developers of the affordable housing for that purpose. The funding that the developers need to come up with typically includes perhaps funding from other jurisdictions, but also possibly loans and other maybe tax credits that they layer on. So it's really different per each developer, how they choose and how they've competed for those funding. So it could be different on every project. And I should say also, our Director of Neighborhood Services, Arcelia Barajas, is, I think, in the audience down south. So if I run into any serious questions that I can't answer about affordable housing or homelessness, I'm sure she can pitch it for me. Thank you.
Next, we have Senator Neal, please.
Anyway, I guess. So on the slide, you guys were saying that, what is that, page 10. It was saying the city of Las Vegas property tax revenues are shrinking. Can you get more into that?
For the record, Sabre Newby, City of Las Vegas, through you, Chair Flores, to Senator Neal. So the City of Las Vegas is...
Please do go direct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sabre Newby, again for the record. The City of Las Vegas is landlocked, and so with that, with limited growth opportunities, really what we're looking at is more infill than outward growth. And as you know, we have a number of older areas, so there's also the pressure of depreciation on property taxes. And so we expect that to happen. And I think what we really were trying to say is that as a function of the larger pie chart, that property taxes are becoming a smaller percentage of the total pie chart.
Yeah, because I was super curious about that, because when I was looking at your comparison chart, kind of goes back to, went to 06 all the way up to 2019. In pre-pandemic, you were actually 18.4 in your property tax in your pie. And here you're 19.7%, so you're up. And then your low, well, I would say, well, actually, I guess you're around 180, which would have been like, but that doesn't even include what you abated. And so can you break down, like, so in a prior chart, you've shown what was collected and what was abated. Do you guys have an updated chart on that?
Senator Neal, no, I don't with me, but we can certainly get that to you.
Chair, follow-up?
Please.
So, okay, I'd like to see that so I could see the difference, because it was in 2008, which is a totally different time period, also totally different population. You're around 180, but then there was a significant portion that was abated. So I want to shift over to question on RDA. So what's the total amount in the budget that goes to the RDA for Ward 5? Because it's not actually broken out in the budget. Like it's just a blanket number for RDA, which includes one for.
Senator Neal, for the record, Saber newbie, I also don't have that information, but we can try and figure out how much has gone into RDA just from Ward 5.
Okay. And so I have another question on the RDA. So, right, there's been a history of the 9-9, right, on the affordable housing. So 9%, so you have an 18% set aside, 9% affordable housing, and 9% that was, I guess is related to education. What I didn't know was that on the affordable housing side, how much of that actually goes towards like true affordable housing. Let me clarify this, because here's the list. So this is what I have for your affordable housing for 9%. So 18% set aside was roughly, what is that, 6 million, 6.4 million, and it's divided equally. So under the affordable housing set aside, it's the master lease program, which is 2 years of stable housing for homelessness, ticket to home, which is stable housing support, housing stability services, which offers rental assistance, more teams, and the Aero Shuttle. So the reason why I'm listing this out is because what I believed, right, all these years, my misnomer, was that the affordable housing, the 9%, was set aside for affordable housing that could be used for the west side, right? Why do I say this? Because I was having this conversation about the Jackson Street project, and they were saying, oh, well, you know, the 9%, the 18% is set aside and 9% is for affordable housing, making believe that this would be building of homes. That 9% is not being used for that purpose. It's actually being used for homelessness, which I care about that too. But that seems to be a shifting of use, and it's not for homes in the underserved areas. Can you help me understand why that 9% set aside is now being used for more homelessness services rather than what I thought, which was some activity either in Ward 5 or some of the other areas that are in need of actual infill housing?
Right, so again, for the record, Saber newbie to you, Senator Neal. I think, I'm not sure where the understanding that it only included the built environment was for that 8%.
It's 9%. It's probably
Sorry,
because
9%.
I asked a direct question to staff at a West Side meeting on Jackson Street where they were asking what redevelopment funds are available. And it was mentioned, well, 9% actually goes to affordable housing. And then my direct comment was, okay, that's great, but what about the actual economic development that still needs to be done because it's still a blighted area, which is still defined under NRS 279. So it was a conversation directly with staff in a meeting. Early summer?
Okay. Again, for the record, Saber newbie, I can certainly look into that for you. I know that there are redevelopment funds that have gone into projects and are going into projects, not maybe necessarily the 9% or the set aside, but other funds from the redevelopment area. And one I can think of specifically is the Sam Cherry development in the west side. There are redevelopment funds in that, and also a plan for the Market Hall, which will be leased by the redevelopment agency for a period of, I think, 10 or 15 years to provide incubator space for small businesses, typically food businesses, for a market hall.
So, follow up?
Please.
How much is actually going towards actual economic development and remedy and blight? That's why I want to see the breakdown of the pie, right? So I want to see the RDA by wards and how much money is dedicated to Ward 5 and how much is being shifted to potentially other uses that are probably not in Ward 5. That's what I'm interested in. Because when I look at the early child care set aside, so it was interesting because you guys are also giving to Accelero. And what I found out was that the county was also given to Accelero in their 309 money from 2019. So I'm trying to figure out how much money is Accelero getting from these various pots when we're funding pre-K. Technically, or I guess the governor intends to fund it this year, and then we did a one shot last year. But when I list out your early child care, it's Strong Start Pre-K, it's Strong Start Go, mobile pre-K, it's AmeriCorps grant match for Strong Start Go and Strong Start Academy, which are CCSD elementary schools. I knew about the reinvent schools because that was what the big debate was, I believe, in 2015, 2017. And then it's now SafeKey. SafeKey is rolled in. And Junior Achievement BizTown. So I guess in my mind, right, what I'm trying to understand, and you're going to hopefully answer this, is if there's still blight in Ward 5, if Ward 5 still looks like 1982, and this 18% set aside is then being used for these other services, 6.4 million, I'm trying to see how much of that belongs in Ward 5 and how much of this should be used on true economic development. And then we can do these other things once we take care of the holistic part of the blight.
Thank you, Senator Neal. For the record, Saber Newby. So I think your question was regarding the other 9%, which is the education portion. And yes, we do have Strong Start Academies. We have Strong Start Academy Go. There's one that's located at Lorenzi Park. There's one that is the Strong Start Academy Go. For those of you not familiar with the Strong Start Academy Go, those are actually Winnebago buses that are outfitted as preschools. And so one of the locations of the buses is at the historic West Side School. And so there are several options within that area. We also have Strong Start Academy charter school that's dual immersion language that is downtown. I believe that's in Ward 3 and not in 5. But there are a number of pre-K options, and should the state decide that that pre-K would be funded, that would be amazing. But until then, we are providing these services. We also have learning supports, as you mentioned, in our aftercare. And so we are able actually through that program to hire teachers that teach in the school to come to aftercare, to SafeKey, to continue tutoring their students and extend that sort of learning time for them in the aftercare. So that is one of the programs that we use those funds for. And there are a number of locations, primarily in Ward 5, and I think maybe some in Ward 3. I'll have to get those locations for you. Elementary schools for which the city seeks grant funds or funds through these set-aside dollars, absolutely free before and after care for the parents at those struggling schools. And from speaking with our Director of Youth Development and Social Initiatives, we have evidence that shows that attendance is higher at those schools when parents know that they have an option of the before and after care and that that's not a struggle for them. So we believe that it's a useful expense.
If you can provide that data, the list of the schools that have the increased attendance, because I would definitely like to see that comparison, specifically with the recent data that I've pulled, which is not the purview of this committee, but on the reading and math achievement of the children that happen to be in some of the West Side schools. So I would like to see the comparison because I've been pulling the historical data for 15 years to see growth, and I'm just curious because the reading and math scores are still showing somewhere around 29 and 30%, and it actually is a resurgence back. And so I would be, Chair, would love to see that data so I can see a comparison to see how this investment is working within those schools. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator. Next, we have Senator Krasner, please. Never mind. Members, any additional questions? I know in the interim, we had an opportunity to talk specifically about our unhoused population and things we can do since then, and so that I can bring all the members into the conversation. I'm always curious how we're all getting along, right, between different jurisdictions. I know we take on different obligations, responsibilities, and sometimes we have good partners, sometimes we have so-so partners, and it is what it is. But just curious to know where we are now. Obviously, we got the general overview, where we feel we'll be in the next couple of months, where we think we'll be in the next couple of years, and then maybe I'll have a follow-up after that.
Thank you for the question, Chair Flores. For the record, Sabra Newby. I think that on the subject of homelessness, we're actually working very well together, and you know, not to toot your horn, but I think that the Campus for Hope project and that investment into those services at the local level in Clark County has really brought us together because we have been working on it collaboratively with some other folks. And so, as I mentioned in my presentation, the City of Las Vegas intends to be a part of that project financially. We are struggling right now under some, you know, pretty severe financial considerations because of the Badlands case. And so I have to give a shout out to Clark County, who has offered to come forward and help us with those costs in the first couple of years as we recover. And so a draft agreement or an agreement will be on our next agenda, actually 2 agreements for that. And so I think we're working well together. You know, the City of Las Vegas has the Homeless Resource Center, and it really serves as an open place for individuals experiencing homelessness to come. It's low barrier, and you know, I think in the past there have been considerations about that, but it is the only of its kind. And I think because we've had this open dialogue with our partners regionally, I think we have come to a better understanding of where we are and the role that we play in the larger ecosystem. And we're happy to do it. I hope that answered your question.
No, it was. Thank you, and I appreciate that. I won't go into follow-up. Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, I wanted to thank you for your presentation, and we'll have an opportunity to continue working all session long. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity.
We'll close out the presentation by the City of Las Vegas, and next we'll open up the presentation by the City of Henderson. Good afternoon, welcome, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Flores, members of the committee. Nicole Rourke, representing the City of Henderson. First, I'd like to introduce to you the Mayor of Henderson, Michelle Romero, and our new City Manager and CEO, Stephanie Garcia-Vaz. They'll be doing the majority of the presentation today, and I will be wrapping it up with just a brief mention of the two bill drafts that we hope to bring before you in committee, just as a quick introduction, and then we'll be open to any questions. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Henderson Mayor Michelle Romero.
Good afternoon. For the record, I'm City of Henderson Mayor Michelle Romero. Thank you, Chair Flores, and members of the committee for the opportunity to join you today and share some of the highlights about the City of Henderson. We appreciate this opportunity at the start of each legislative session. It has been my honor to serve as mayor at the City of Henderson since 2023, and prior to that, to represent Ward 1 since 2019. I'm a lifelong resident and also had the privilege of working for the City of Henderson for 25 years, including as the redevelopment agency manager for almost 10 years prior to my retirement as a city employee. I'm also vice chair of the Southern Nevada Workforce Development Area Local Elected Officials Consortium and president of the Nevada League of Cities. I also serve on the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority Board of Directors. I'm here today representing my colleagues on the Henderson City Council. From left to right, we have Councilwoman Monica Larson in Ward 2, Councilman Jim Seebach in Ward 1, Councilman Down Stewart in Ward 4, and Councilwoman Carrie Cox in Ward 3. I'm very pleased to introduce to you our new City Manager, Chief Executive Officer, Stephanie Garcia-Vaz. Stephanie was named City Manager in December, and I'm going to turn it over to her for the next portion of this presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the Senate Government Affairs Committee. My name is Stephanie Garcia-Vaz, and I have the privilege to be the City Manager and CEO of the City of Henderson. I not only live there, but I have served as the City of Henderson and worked there for 3 decades, including spending the past 7 years as an Assistant City Manager, and prior to that, serving as the Director of Community Development and Services for about a decade. Although they were not able to join us today, I want to highlight the other members of my senior leadership team, Assistant City Manager and Chief Infrastructure Officer, Alyssa Rodriguez, who you can see in the middle of the screen, and Assistant City Manager and Chief Strategy Officer, Lisa Corrado. Both city leadership and our government affairs team are eager to work with you during this session, and I appreciate the opportunity to share our perspective and our unique needs today. If there's anything we can do to assist you or have any questions you need answered, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We're here to help. Henderson really is a place for everyone to call home, and we've joined the rest of Southern Nevada in seeing increased diversity among our residents over the last few decades. Our population now exceeds 345,000, and we are the second largest city in Nevada. We are also the state's largest full-service city, providing police, fire, emergency services, parks and recreation, public works, water and wastewater services. As a city, we face our challenges with optimism and hard work, core elements of the culture we've developed over time, and we pride ourselves on achieving our goals no matter the odds. As a result, the city has been awarded the prestigious Malcolm Baldrige Award, National Quality Award, one of only 5 cities to have ever achieved this highest recognition for performance excellence bestowed on the President of the United States. This award validates our data-driven approach using national best practices to inform our strategies and to achieve our goals. We're excited to be accepting that award next month in Washington, D.C. We want to share some information with you about the city's finances and budget. We're proud to have the highest bond rating of any city within the state with a AA+ bond rating. Henderson maintains the lowest tax rate among any major city in the state at only 77 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. While we're proud that we maintain our services, programs, and amenities with such a low tax rate, the city's statutory ability to increase it is quite limited, including the significant limitations of the property tax caps. Our general fund is comprised of a variety of sources, but approximately 73% is made up of the consolidated and property taxes. Our general fund revenues are budgeted at just over $388 million for FY 2025. Since over 70% of our general fund is tax-based, that leaves only a small portion that we can control as a city. And we are beginning to see the real challenges in the near future with our available revenues. As you can see here, our total budget for FY 2025 was approved at $392 million. Public safety accounts for more than half of our general fund budgeted expenditures. Add in parks and recreation, and 72% of our general fund budget goes towards these three areas: parks, fire, and police. The rest of the budget is allocated to various priorities identified in our strategic plan, as well as city operations. As a city government that provides full services to the community, most of that budgeted expense is in the form of salaries and benefits. We partner with our unions and our employees directly to understand what is important to them and work to provide the most competitive compensation packages that we can afford. We do seek both competitive federal grants and congressionally directed community project funds to support capital and operational projects. The city has a central grants office within the finance department that plays a dual role of supporting departments citywide in seeking new grant opportunities, but also assists with managing grants, serving as a reviewer and approver of all financial transactions related to grant funding. This centralized office ensures the city can align funding opportunities with strategic priorities and prevent a duplication of effort. It also ensures better compliance and oversight, as a single office helps ensure adherence to grant requirements, reducing errors, administrative risks, and burdens. Competitive grants can fluctuate over time, but we've had significant success post-pandemic with the largest grant we've seen supporting our Boulder Highway Reimagined project that started construction in 2024 in partnership with the Department of Transportation and the RTC, Regional Transportation Commission, and I should say the Nevada Department of Transportation. We received a $40 million infra grant and $48 million in other federal funding. And this is a transformational investment to the most mature part of our community, a project we've envisioned for nearly 20 years, bringing transportation access to residents who need it most in our most vulnerable communities. Next slide. Yet, we remain one of the most efficient city governments with only 6.6 employees per 1,000 residents. We have a lean and well-structured organization that makes the most of the limited resources we have. Again, this takes a partnership directly with our employees and with our unions. As we look to the near future, we know we face some daunting challenges. Consolidated taxes, which are primarily comprised of sales taxes, are falling below initial budgeted projections. Pre-pandemic averages were 3 to 5% growth, but we had projected a minimal, what we thought was conservative, 1% increase in C-tax for FY 2025. However, revenues have come in well below our projections for the last 6 months of reported revenue. We've also seen significant cost increases with the city's PERS contribution. This year, PERS contributions will increase from 50% to 58.75% for public safety, and from 33.5% to 36.75% for non-public safety. Increases in PERS contributions are split with employees, and we anticipate a $6.2 million impact for the city's portion just this year. We're also seeing significant increases in our workers' compensation claims and healthcare costs. We hope to come back to talk to you more about workers' compensation claims and the impacts that that's having on our budget. As we stated previously, original budget projections were for a 1% increase in consolidated tax, but for the last 6 months, we've seen consolidated tax coming in well below that projection. On average, C-tax is running about $390,000 below projections per month, with a total deficit of almost $2.4 million just over the last 6 months. One of the areas we're watching closely is workers' compensation. Claims and judgment expenses have seen a dramatic increase from $12.4 million in FY23 to over $29 million in FY24. The increase in claims results from multiple factors, including an increase in overall numbers of claims submitted, heart and lung claims, post-traumatic stress claims, and we want to take care of our employees. I want to make sure you hear that. Our employees are essential to everything we do and to providing the quality of life for our residents. You've heard me talk about that. At the same time, we have concerns about the significant increases in expenses and what that means for the future, so we look forward to talking to you about that more. Last year, we adopted a new 4-year strategic plan with input from residents, businesses, and Henderson's elected leaders. This plan establishes the priorities that guide the decisions we make as a city, focused on 5 strategic priorities. Our budgetary process reflects these, as well as the legislative priorities that we will be working with you this session. As you know, we share the same constituents. We're serving the same community. We have an ambitious plan and a track record of success, but our annual budget requests for capital improvement, operational, and strategic priorities continuously outstrip the available resources we have. Therefore, we must be strategic and innovative in allocating our finite resources. In fact, we are looking at cost-saving measures and taking a look at things that we've historically done that we may not be able to continue to do and may not be part of our core services. Over the next few slides, we'll share with you some of the accomplishments and challenges we're seeing within these areas. I'm now going to turn it back over to the mayor to discuss community safety.
Chair Flores, Michelle Romero for the record. The City Council and city leadership have invested significantly to maintain strong police and fire departments. In fact, almost 60% of our operating budget is dedicated to keeping our community as one of the safest cities in America. Police Chief Holly Chadwick has been at the helm for just about 2 years, and our 12th Fire Chief Scott Vivier was sworn in October. Like other cities, we face significant national challenges with recruitment, retention, and increasing costs of equipment due to inflation. Traffic fatalities are up significantly across our state, and we are investing in increased enforcement and roadway improvements, including the Reimagine Boulder Highway project. Emergency calls are also rising. An increase in public safety funding will be necessary to maintain our high quality of service as our community continues to grow. Fortunately, we're only growing at about 1.6 to 1.8% right now, so it's manageable. Unlike past years where we've seen double-digit growth, we're really focusing on manageable, smart growth. Our fire department is of particular concern. We've been able to make progress in building and renovating some of our fire stations in Henderson. However, with the failed ballot initiative, many of our priorities will have to wait. Some of our fire stations were built long ago and weren't equipped for the fire department personnel of today. We don't even have, in some cases, separate sleeping quarters for men and women, bathroom facilities, things like that. It's not conducive to a healthy environment. Despite being ranked as one of the top fire departments in the country, our fire and EMS response times are not hitting our benchmarks and face further strains as our community continues to grow. Whereas police have 2 outside revenue sources from sales taxes to help weather downturns, fire does not, and we hope that at some point in the future we have the opportunity to work with you on that as well. And now I'll turn it over to Stephanie.
Thank you, Mayor. For the record, Stephanie Garcia Voss. Another national challenge we face is that increases in housing prices have outpaced income growth, making housing affordability a critical issue, even for Henderson. Henderson's housing supply is currently underserved by approximately 5,800 units and projected to be underserved by more than 65,000 units by the year 2040. To meet this challenge, we've taken actions to address the housing needs of all residents, including producing the Henderson Housing and Community Development Strategy in 2020 and creating the Housing Advisory Committee in 2023 that brought experts in the housing field from developers to residents to planning commissioners and policymakers to see what types of things we can do to increase the affordable housing supply. Thanks to the work the legislature has done with Senate Bill 103 in 2019 and other legislation, we've also implemented important updates to the city codes and regulations which serve to increase the supply of affordable housing in Henderson, including providing affordable housing incentives like reducing fees for development and inspections, consideration of expedited plan check for affordable housing developments, reducing parking requirements and increasing allowed building heights for quality, affordable housing projects, establishing standards for tiny houses, that should sound familiar, council adoption of fee waivers for affordable units. And with one-time stimulus funds, we facilitated affordable residential projects in Henderson, including Sunrise Ranch, which is a partnership with Nevada Hand, who will provide 144 affordable units at the corner of Broadbent Boulevard and Boulder Highway. The Ovation West Henderson Family Apartment Project, which will provide 390 affordable units. The Arroyo Grande Apartments Project with 121 affordable units located on American Pacific Drive across from the Arroyo Grande Sports Complex. The Center for the Blind, which is a partnership with Clark County, Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, will build 100 permanent supportive units for people who are visually impaired at Vision Park in Las Vegas. With more funding, we could look forward to doing more affordable housing projects like these. Despite being Nevada's second largest city, the number of individuals experiencing homelessness in Henderson accounts for only about 5% of those experiencing homelessness countywide. While we don't have Henderson-specific data for previous years, we've been experiencing consistent population growth, which includes individuals experiencing homelessness. Last year, we created the Henderson Homeless Response Team to outreach to this community and provide them with resources. To date, we've helped more than 500 individuals, placing 80 people into various emergency shelters in just the last 6 months. We've connected others to housing through nonprofits and helped hundreds of households facing a loss of housing with rent or utility assistance to remain in their homes. The need is greater than the funding available from year to year due to the rising rent costs. And our one-time COVID funding has since expired. So let me make that clear. Our COVID funding is what has supported this pilot project. This pilot will wind down in September unless we can find a funding source to sustain it. Unfortunately, Henderson is not an emergency solutions grant entitlement community. Lots of people will refer to that as ESG, despite being the second largest city in Nevada. ESG grants are designed and given to communities specifically to assist people experiencing homelessness or at risk of being homeless. So that is a revenue stream that we would really like to have, and we continue to work with our congressional delegation to address this issue. Last year, Congress approved $4 million in community project funds for a Henderson Homeless Navigation Center to help connect individuals and families experiencing homelessness to needed services. We're working with HUD to stand up this project and hope to work with Clark County to complement their Campus of Hope model. And part of this is the Navigation Center is an essential piece to identifying and bringing people into that system. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Mayor Romero.
Chair Flores, Michelle Romero for the record. We have a great story to tell with our economic diversification, which benefits the whole region. We are focused on bringing in good-paying jobs to promote economic stability and economic mobility. Since 2019, we've helped 36 companies move or expand to Henderson, especially to the fast-growing West Henderson area. Haas Automation has begun vertical construction on their 2.4 million square foot facility in West Henderson. They began in fall of 2024 to go vertical, and they expect to have an opening in late 2026. When completed, the facility will employ 1,400 people and invest over $300 million in the region. To support Haas and attract additional advanced manufacturing, the city partnered with the College of Southern Nevada to open the Deborah March Center of Excellence. When fully operational, the Center of Excellence will be able to support and train 500 individuals and students annually for these high-skilled jobs. We've already started graduating some of those students. And we've updated our target industries with a very specific focus for our economic development efforts. We have the only certified economic development program in the state, accredited, and we have worked very hard to specifically target those businesses that we'd like to come in. We've created a dynamic tool that factors in things like changing technology, changing environment, and things like education in the valley to determine what tweaks need to be made to those targets so that we can make sure that we're targeting the jobs of the future. Tax incentives from our Governor's Office of Economic Development continue to play an incredibly important role in the continued success of many Henderson businesses. Aiming incentives that help attract new out-of-market businesses at high-impact target industries would allow Henderson and the state to continue to be the community of choice for the types of businesses we seek to attract. We also recognize that small businesses are the backbone of our community. We have several programs, including a small business startup grant, and we do perform business visits to our existing businesses to make sure that we understand how they are doing, what challenges they're facing, and we're able to address any challenges they have in real time on those visits. The City of Henderson looks forward to working with GOED, the legislature, and our regional partners toward modernizing Nevada's tax incentive offerings. Our Henderson residents strongly value education, and our city is actively involved in supporting our local schools. Thanks to the work of the governor and the legislature that you did in the last session in enacting AB 400, the city has been approved to become a charter school authorizer to offer more options for Henderson families. We've established the infrastructure to support authorizing work, and we've accepted 7 notices of intent to apply with applications due at the end of April of 2025. We've also approved design and construction for a second preschool program with an anticipated completion at the end of 2026. The transformation our city has accomplished in just my lifetime is nothing short of amazing. I believe we have proven ourselves very good stewards with the limited resources we've been given, and we humbly ask for your continued support and promise to continue to over-deliver through hard work and continued optimism even in the face of challenges.
Stephanie Garcia Voss for the record. Last summer, the city approved our language access plan as required by Assembly Bill 266 from the last session. Our city clerk is overseeing implementation of the plan as our language access plan coordinator. Since approval, our Title VI coordinator and our Human Resources Department have been working to ensure alignment between federal and state requirements. We're forming a working group for stakeholders and working to consolidate translation services in multiple departments to one vendor. We've implemented translated agendas for our Planning Commission as required by AB 266 and are providing live translation services for essential services, live translation devices for essential services that interact with individuals with limited English proficiency. Now I'll turn it over to our Director of Government Affairs, Nicole Rourke.
Thank you, Nicole Rourke, for the record. Just a brief overview of the 2 bill drafts that we're bringing hopefully before you. The first starts in the Assembly with AB 10. This seeks to expand projects eligible for neighborhood improvement districts for the repair of private water or sewer facilities in common interest communities. And then Senate Bill 72, which starts off in this committee, is a charter modernization bill and seeks to put into place recommendations that were made by our Henderson Charter Committee. Those changes include making optional our committee meeting, changing the timeline for a special election should the council choose to do that upon a vacancy, and making a change to the sale of real property that we discovered recently while working with Nevada State University. And with that, Chair Flores, members of the committee, our presentation is concluded and we're open to any questions.
And thank you all for that presentation. Members, any questions? Senator Ellison, please. Senator Ellison, I think your microphone might be off.
I'm gonna have to move, this is too far away. Anyway, but if you look at the chart on 12 and look at your projected area where it looks like that's bound to come up. And if that's the case between the end of 2024 to going into the 25, are you projecting that your consolidated tax is gonna go up quite a bit, or are you gonna break even? Where are you gonna be, or are you down?
Through Chair Flores to Senator Ellison.
And please do Go direct, thank you.
Senator Ellison, Stephanie Garcia Voss for the record. We are not necessarily projecting it to go up and see the big turnaround. We continue to monitor this very closely. It's something that we are looking at monthly. We're sharing the information with our employees in our community. We have the information for our employees to see regularly, so we're not necessarily planning on this to go up.
If I may, sir. Yeah, and the other one was on 13, and that was workers' compensation. Boy, that was a large increase from 23 to 24. Is that because of the insurance debts? Or
Senator Ellison, Stephanie Garcia Voss for the record. That is primarily because of the claims that are coming in. And so we've seen an increase in the number of claims. And so that's an alarming number to us as well. And that's why we want to sit down and take a look at that, because clearly we did not expect this kind of a jump from one year to the next. So we are anticipating what future years will look like.
And I agree, and when I seen that, I thought, wow, that's a major increase. But a lot of this is, a lot of the cities are facing right now is the increase in the insurance costs on top of that, and that's been taking them up over the top. Have you seen that?
Senator Ellison, Stephanie Garcia Voss for the record. That is one of the things that has also increased, is the cost of healthcare and our ability to provide that cost. We try to keep that. We are a self-funded agency for healthcare, and so we are doing all that we can to keep those premiums low for our employees as well, but to provide the best healthcare, because we know a healthy employee is going to have less injuries as well. You know, our employees are central to everything we do, and that's our focus.
Looks like you've done a pretty good job holding it together, though. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have Senator Neal, please.
So I have a question on, well, it's two slides. So I'll start with number 10. And actually not number 10, number 9. It was your grant funding growth. So I'm trying to get an understanding on like how to read that. So you have your general grant funding, and then you have COVID recovery. And then in 2024 and 2025, it's just blue. So does that mean there is no more COVID money?
Senator Neal, Stephanie Garcia Voss for the record. Our COVID funds are allocated and being expended, so that's why you don't see them. Those jumps are likely because of the grants that are associated with the Boulder Highway Reimagine project. We've got 2 really significant ones. I can tell you in terms of our regular federal grant funding, we receive about $3.8 million a year in recurring, guaranteed, at least guaranteed for now, federal grant funding.
Thank you for that. And then the next question is on slide 12. So this is your consolidated and then your consolidated tax actual. And so it looks like, so for the first 4 months of FY 2025, you received roughly $55,246,000 from C-Tax, which was approximately 13.8, roughly 13.811 a month, which would give you a decrease of 907,000, roughly 1.6%. But if we looked at the average, it looked like you were getting over about the first 4 months roughly of 2024, because I'm trying to do the comparison, you were getting about 14. So you have, that's not a significant, I know it probably is to you, but I'm trying to understand, like, okay, if the decrease is 1.6% over the first 4 months of FY 2025, and then the average first 4 months of FY 2024 was 14.038, then prior year, you had a bump of roughly 200K a month. So can we talk about like how is the, I guess it's the difference, right? So if the difference from 2024 to 2025, we were to take the first 4 months of 24, the first 4 months of 25, there's a 200K difference per month. What does that mean? How is that translated into a loss of service? Or talk to me about the impact of that, because that's de minimis.
So, Senator Neal, Stephanie Garcia Voss, for the record, it may seem like that, but we run a very tight budget. As you see, we have the lowest number of employee ratio per 1,000 residents. We also have a low tax rate. Our numbers show, and I know these are averages, but about $390,000 per month below what we projected. So we actually projected a slower revenue, so that blue line on slide 12 was what we were projecting for this fiscal actual numbers, and we were only projecting, I believe it was about a 2 to 3% growth, and our projections are coming in, we were projecting a 1%. Our pre-pandemic numbers were 2 to 3%. We were only projecting a 1%, and the projections have been not even that. They've actually been declining. At the same time, you can imagine with inflation, everything's more expensive. So the cost of our employees, all of the contracts that we have bargained, step increases. So even though it doesn't seem like a lot, the amount of money that we know we are going to owe just because of existing numbers, and using the PERS example, we are not meeting those projections.
Okay, that's really helpful information. So I have a follow-up to that. So running a tight budget, so I was trying to compare. So you had your growth on the front sheet of roughly, what is that, 345,000? Yeah? And then in 2019, you were around 321,000, so you had a growth of roughly 24,000 people potentially in the past 5 years. This is kind of, and then your budget in 2019 was this was your revenue. Let me be clear, I don't want to mess this up. Revenue at 321,000 folks, which I'm equating that to services, etc. You had 269.9 million in your revenue. 5 years later, you have an increase of 24,000 residents, it appears, and now your revenue is 388 million. So you're saying you have expenditures of 392 million, and you're saying that there's two parts to this question. Significant jump in revenue over the 5 years. And what I need to understand is that how much of that, we have 269 pre-COVID, 388, how much of that is COVID ARPA?
Senator Neal, Stephanie Garcia Voss, for the record, I would have to go back and get you those numbers to answer the question as to how much of that was COVID.
So can I ask this question? So in 2019, your property tax rate was 0.71 and it's 0.77 now. What is that? What is it, 6 cents? What is the 6 cents increase in the property tax? What's the dollar amount?
Tell you that, Senator Neal, Stephanie Garcia Voss, for the record, I can tell you that even when we increase our property taxes, because of property tax caps, it takes us a number of years to realize the increase to our.
Okay.
And I can get you that information exactly.
So then the final question, Chair, on the worker comp healthcare cost, what is the significant increase that's hitting your budget? Are your folks, because workers comp means that, there are higher incidences at work. Do you have a sicker employment population? What's happening?
Senator Neal, Stephanie Garcia Voss for the record. There are a number of factors to that. So for example, we see our aging population of employees who are eligible for workers' comp claims like heart and lung. We have seen an expansion in the laws that allow more things to be claimed with workers' comp. And so we're seeing an increase in the sheer number of claims. And we would like to come back and sit down with you and talk to you more specifically about the entire gamut of what is going into that and what that looks like. And the presumptive benefits.
Yeah, I'm super interested, just because, you know, we had that PERS conversation this morning, and when I was talking to, I was actually having this conversation with Dr. Titus, and, you know, we were saying, you know, although folks were living longer, they were still living longer, but not necessarily healthier. And so I wanted to, you know, because you use the word dramatic increases. This is a wonderful adjective there. So I wanted to just kind of dig into that a little bit more to try to understand like what's happening in that space, right? Because your expenditures are exceeding your revenue, and then heart and lung goes to your fire and police. So I just wanted to, you know, there's a lot of multiple pieces that, you know, when you see the property tax increase, you see that C-tax is kind of holding its own because, you know, it's at 40, you're at 45, I think, and then 5 years ago you were at like 44.8. And then you're having these small nuances. So I'm really trying to understand like true costs and where they're coming from, because the slides say a lot, but there's, you know, no depth. So, thanks, Chair, but we'll talk, because I really just want to understand, you know, I'm having a C-tax presentation in revenue. I've said this like multiple times. It's happening.
Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you again for the presentation. We look forward to working alongside all of you as well. With that, we'll go ahead and close out the presentation by the City of Henderson. And next on the agenda, we have the City of Reno. Good afternoon and welcome. Good afternoon, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, Vice Chair Orenshaw, Nick Ciccone, Government Affairs Manager for the record. I have the honor to introduce Vice Mayor Kathleen Taylor as well as City Manager Jackie Bryant. But other than that, I will just be here to help them with the slide deck.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Honorable Committee. We understand you are having a very long afternoon, so we will get right to it. We're very excited to be here this afternoon and share with you about the biggest little city. That's Reno, Nevada, and we are the 4th largest city in Nevada, and it's my home. Our city manager is going to get into some of the details that are not in common with all the other jurisdictions, but I'm going to talk about some highlights that you might not hear from some of the other cities. The first thing is we have the Truckee River going through our downtown.
I apologize for cutting you off.
Sorry.
I just have you state your name for the record.
I'm just trying to get through this for you guys. Kathleen
No
Taylor.
Please continue.
Thank you very much. So yes, we are home to the Truckee River going right through our downtown, and we have had significant efforts and achievements in the last couple of years in that space. We also have undertaken some historic projects. One is the Moana the Mana Pool Center. It is the first new pool that we have opened in the last 30 years. We also opened our Public Safety Center, which is a state-of-the-art new safety center. This council has prioritized housing and affordability, allocating millions of dollars in regional rental assistance, and also prioritizing direct dollars in incentives and affordable housing developments. I am very proud of our council's commitment to working with other jurisdictions and partner agencies, and we've maintained great relationships within our region. And our most recent accomplishment is the addition of our new city manager, Ms. Jackie Bryant.
Thank you very much. Jackie Bryant for the record, City Manager for the City of Reno. We are so grateful for the opportunity to highlight Reno and the many things that have happened since we were last here. Are we up? Thank you. In 2024, the Reno City Council changed from 5 wards to 6, each represented by 1 council member and the mayor. We are a council manager form of government where the council establishes policy and the city manager is responsible for the day-to-day operations. The council meets at least twice a month on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock, and we accept public comment in person via email or via Zoom. The council has 7 strategic priorities for the 2020 through 2025 period. These priorities are the backbone of staff recommendations and council decisions. We are embarking on an updated strategic plan this year, so by this time next year, we will have an updated plan. Reno is a vibrant, diverse, and growing city. With 54% of the Washoe County population in the city of Reno, Reno is the 4th largest city in Nevada and the 80th largest city in the United States. Growth brings increased jobs, innovation, and new cultural experiences. But rapid growth creates challenges such as keeping up with the demand for roads, housing, and services. This chart represents the FY25 General Fund adopted budget. The 3 largest sources of revenues for the city's general fund are consolidated taxes, property taxes, and franchise fees in that order. C-Tax is not only the largest contributor, but it is the most volatile revenue. For this fiscal year, we budgeted a 4% increase in C-Tax over last year based on projections at the time the budget was built. We are currently at 0% growth. This equates to an approximate $4 million deficit fiscal year to date. Property taxes are a more stable funding source, but are limited by statutory caps and depreciation. Further, a quarter of all real property in Reno is fully depreciated. Franchise fees make up 14% of the general fund revenues. These revenues are currently down approximately 12% from the budgeted amount. Telephone and cable franchise fees are shrinking due to customers switching to mobile phones and streaming television services, and consumers who are pinched by housing and grocery costs are choosing to save money by adjusting thermostats, which affects gas and electric fees. You can tell what is important to someone by how they spend their time and money. Reno prioritizes public safety. The city's adopted FY General Fund budget is $354 million, including ending fund balance. Approximately 75%, which is $235 million, is for salaries and benefits. And approximately 60% of the total general fund pays for the public safety departments of police, fire, and dispatch. This includes personnel and operating costs for public safety, but it does not include the associated costs of the IT, human resources, civil service, and finance departments who are necessary to support our public safety personnel. The City of Reno has a history of sharing information across multiple platforms and in multiple languages. In 2017, Reno implemented bilingual communications on all of our social media platforms and in press releases, and allowed for language translation on its website. In 2024, Reno adopted the LAP pursuant to AB 266. Since then, we have expanded access for those who need assistance hearing or communicating through the Listen Everywhere and Ubi Duo devices. And in addition to our bilingual employees, we use language banks for languages when necessary. The City of Reno spends approximately $7 million annually on homeless-related issues. In addition to the general cleaning and enforcement costs, Reno has invested funds in a variety of innovative initiatives to assist unhoused individuals. The rapid rehousing program was funded in July of 2024. Via a partnership with Volunteers of America and the Reno Housing Authority, We are moving people directly from the streets to Village at Sage Street, which is a transitional housing program. There, individuals receive wraparound services and are supported in a move to a permanent location once a VOA housing voucher is available. We have moved in 10 people from the streets since this program began. The Highway 40 motel rehabilitation will be operable by the end of this year. Through a partnership with NAMS, VOA, and the court system, we will divert people from the court system into housing with wraparound services. They will be able to live there for up to 2 years with no charge. I am incredibly proud of the council's support of these programs and their commitment to ensuring people receive the help they need while keeping our city clean and safe for all to enjoy. As mentioned earlier, growth has its challenges, and one of them is keeping up with the need for housing. Reno has waived $11.3 million in sewer connection fees and has donated $8.85 million in ARPA funding to support affordable and workforce housing. Additionally, the legislature has helped Reno to support those who are struggling financially by allocating funding for deposit and rental assistance. Reno's rental assistance program is for people living throughout Washoe County. We assist individuals in Reno, Sparks, and unincorporated Washoe County. The state's Home Mean Nevada program has also been invaluable in helping Reno develop affordable housing complexes like Pinion Apartments, Dick Scott Manor, Silver Sage, and Essex Manor. Reno has been and will continue to be committed to increasing affordable housing. As of today, 87% of all affordable housing units in Washoe County are in Reno, whereas Reno has 54% of the total population. Our challenges are the same as those of the other jurisdictions. Revenues are declining while labor costs are increasing. Add to that the number of people who are moving to Reno at record rates, and it's difficult to keep up with the growth. It's one we are constantly looking at and always looking for innovative solutions. Vice Mayor Taylor opened with some of the things we have recently celebrated in Reno. The pictures on the right show the new Public Safety Center and the new Moana Springs Pool. The picture on the left is from the ribbon cutting for Dick Scott Manor, a brand new affordable housing development for veterans. The advanced purified water system is progressing nicely, as well as the plans to revitalize Virginia Street and the Truckee River Pass. Many wonderful things are happening in Reno, and we would welcome an opportunity to show them to you. Thank you for listening, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
And thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it. Members, we'll start with questions. I'm looking at Senator Ellison because he likes to kick us off, but I'm not sure.
I'm still catching up learning.
Fair enough. All right, Senator Neal, please.
Okay, so I was looking at the salary and benefits. And then, so I'm always comparing. So your salary and benefits has grown significantly. So I want you to kind of explain that. So I'll put the information out there. So in salaries and wages, and this is pre-pandemic, you had roughly 99 million in salary and wages. And then in your employee benefits, it was about, I saw the second part of the pie, which was like 57 million, roughly 142. Then you have 234 million in salary and benefits. So how much of that are some of those ARPA positions? What's happening? I know there's been an increase in living cost, and houses skyrocketed. I mean, what's the average? About 500K roughly, and that's a starter.
Jackie Bryant for the record, approximately 615 last I heard.
So, we'll just start there, right? Yes. The increase, is any of that, any COVID positions being paid with, any salaries being paid with COVID money, ARPA money?
So Jackie Bryant, yes, thank you for the question. Only one position, there are two positions that are ARPA funded. One is for a senior citizens support person. Although cities are not typically in that lane, we saw a need for enhancing accessibility for our seniors, particularly coming out of COVID, because so many of them have developed a more insular lifestyle, and we wanted to create some opportunities for them to come on out back into the environment and the community that appreciates them so much. So that's been a very successful venture. The main reason that we have the increases that you're referencing is that we added a significant number of police and fire over the last 4 years. And I can get you the actual numbers. I don't have those in my head right now, and I would hate to try and guess, but that is where the predominant increase came from. We had not in Reno recovered and still have not recovered from the Great Recession as far as the staffing goes. So we are still below the staffing levels that we were then, but we are much better today than we were 4 years ago.
Okay, good to know. All right, so, C-Tax.
Yes, ma'am.
So prior C-Tax revenue, this is your 2019, you were at roughly 67,218,998, so it was about 36%. But then your C-Tax here this is revenue, right? I'm on the right, because we had two presentations. You have 102 million here. So should I be looking at the thinner presentation? Because if you were at 67 in 2019 and it was 36% of your budget, it's 33% of your budget now, but it's at 102 million. So you actually have doubled your C-Tax in 5 years. So are we saying we're, what similar presentation, we're trending down in the first 4 months?
Jackie Bryant for the record, so a couple things are happening. We updated the presentation because some of the numbers on the first deck that were sent to you were not correct. So you're looking at the deck that we supplied today. We are trending down. We are down approximately 4% over last year. The State Economic Forum has confirmed that while we are at 0% growth, so is everyone else. And they've also projected only a 2% growth for next fiscal year and 2.7% after that. In addition, the revenues that received, we only received half of our revenues for October. We have $337 million in revenues for consolidated tax fiscal year to date right now.
Is that tied to, I know there's been issues with, I probably shouldn't even get into this, but I know there's been issues with local governments receiving payments on the controller side, and then we have I don't know if it's tied to Mint, but I know that there's some connection between the Department of Taxation being able to collect a certain amount of revenue because of the upgrades that are happening in the core NV system.
Jackie Bryant, that's correct. I'm not sure exactly where the hiccup is, but there was a software upgrade, and so we are likely to receive half of our revenues. We received half for this month, and we will receive half, I believe, in February, and then sometime between February and March, we'll shore it up.
Yeah, okay, so ultimately, April will have a better number because you will have gotten your drops in the bucket.
Correct.
Okay, that's more helpful than I'm flat, but I haven't been paid. See the difference? I haven't been paid is an entirely different category than it's just not coming in, right? So I want to be able to see that comparison, right? So once you guys fully get what you're supposed to get when the systems are done, I think that's going to be super helpful, right? Because we're really not digging into that. I know the controller is really, really working hard, and he's really, really trying to get this together. But this is a nugget of information that's not actually being discussed by the local governments. I know it's happening, but they're not talking about what they're not being paid. I also don't want any, local governments that are going to present, and I'm not the chair of this committee, to be like, oh, Core V is the reason why our numbers are off. Don't use that as an excuse. I want the real numbers. Because I'm just curious, because I'm always trying to see how are you growing? Because it looks like you're growing, But yes, your expenditures are growing too, right? So it's just the balancing act between what's happening and what's occurring. Just trying to get the real picture.
So thank you for that, and Jackie Bryant for the record. And just to be very specific, for July, August, September, and October, we received what was supposed to be the full amount of seat tax allocation. And those 4 months were roughly 4% under projected budget. So the amount that we received for November was half, roughly, we think, of what we will be receiving. And then we have not yet received any amount for December.
This is super, super helpful, because we didn't really get a chance to dig into that in other spaces. I'd love to see that follow up, and definitely want to follow up with you guys once you get the full payments from Christmas, so we could really see what you're trending, right? So I guess it's a note for Revenue Committee, be prepared for the trending and the core NV lapses. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then we'll go to Senator Rogich, and then we'll go to Senator Ellison, please.
So Jackie Bryant for the record, I would say they would say yes. They have a dedicated sales tax that assists with building new schools, and we are fortunate enough that the students in the Washoe County School District will be the benefit of some really fabulous new schools in the near future. I think on the operations side, they would say that they are continuing to struggle to keep up with the cost of inflation and housing in the region, and to keep up with their teacher salaries.
And next we'll go to Senator Ellison, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Many years ago, we worked on a project for increasing the room tax in Reno. And that was going to look at also not only paying for debt, but also for expansion of the facility. Is that still in the works? Where are we at on this? But the convention center down right beside the Atlantis was going to expand or move. Is that in the?
Jackie Bryant for the record. That is something that we are having conversations about, but there's no set status at this moment.
Karen and I both worked on that project, and that increased the room tax to help pay for that. So,
Jackie Bryant, yes, that did, and the room tax has been declining over the last several years, so that has presented some other challenges. We are actively working with our partner, the RSCVA, to enhance room visits in the region. There have been some challenges recently, but we are hopeful that through our redevelopment agency and the growth that is experiencing, that we'll be able to invest in the downtown core a little bit more to kind of help support some of the rehabilitation that you're referencing. Not at all. And apologize that Mr. Siccione has some. Sorry.
Nick Ciccone, Government Affairs Manager for the record. I also wanted to address, there's also an additional $2 surcharge on room nights in the downtown area that pay for capital improvements, which you might be referring to. Part of the issue that you might see with that is that the $2 is not increased as other costs increase for infrastructure in the downtown area.
Thank you for that. And I do remember that, Senator Ellison, back from 2015, and then the conversation spilled over to 2017. Members, any additional questions?
Mr. Chair.
Please, Vice Chair Orenshaw.
Thank you. You touched on the community courts for the homeless, and I wonder if you could tell us what's the success rate in terms of people who go through the community courts, in terms of not picking up new charges and not ending up on the streets again. I wondered if you could discuss that.
Yes, thank you. Jackie Bryant for the record. And I am incredibly proud of our community court program. What it is, for those of you who may not know, or for the public, is that it is a program where if an individual has committed an offense of a very minor sort, then they might be cited into community court. And that court meets on Wednesday mornings. And those individuals are met with opportunities to enroll in Medicaid, SNAP, get housing, really the whole gamut of services is available to them. And then they are met by a judge whose only goal is to help that individual move into more stable housing. And I do not know the actual rate that you would say of those individuals who do not recidivate, but I do know that it is better than those who do not go into the program. So I will get you the actual numbers. It is something it's held in the Reno Municipal Court by the Reno Municipal Court judge, and it really has become a central location for services. And individuals who are not cited may go there. We go there to establish DMV records. You know, we just really do anything that we can do in that particular location.
Appreciate what you're doing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, anybody else? Seeing none, thank you all for the presentation.
Thank you.
And we look forward to working with you throughout session as well. Have a wonderful day. We'll close out the presentation by the City of Reno, and next we will open the presentation by the City of Boulder City. Mayor Hardy, welcome back. Good to be here. Would you like to join us on this side of the dais?
Joe Hardy for the record. Yes, it's good to be back. Recognize people who have served and appreciate the public service that you've rendered and you still render. It's a warm, fuzzy feeling to be here. I represent Boulder City now as the mayor. I appreciated the illustration about the handlebars and the bicycles and the handlebars of the city council. I thought, okay, I'm basically just the grip on one of the handlebars. That's my role as the mayor. And it is a privilege to be able to serve, continue to serve in public service. Joe Hardy for the record, in case I haven't done that. Brittany Walker is our city attorney, and she's arranged a very wonderful presentation. But I did want to say that to give a little history of where I'm at, we moved to Boulder City about 42 years ago. My last two children were born there. I have 3 children born in Reno. I graduated from Sparks High School. I went to UNR and then went to medical school for the first 2 years at Nevada, which they used to call UNR. And I have a huge investment in Nevada. My mother was raised in Sparks, and it's just a great feeling to be a Nevadan and to be part of that in Boulder City. We in Boulder City are unique, I guess, in a lot of different ways. We think small. We have a growth ordinance that keeps us small, and we've chosen to do that as a populace. And so we think in small words like the dam, the lake, the railroad, and the school crossing guards. I was in the barber shop the other day and talked with somebody, and he said, "Oh, you're the mayor?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "You know what you did? You recognized the school crossing guards and let us go first at the city dinner for the employees, and we've never been recognized as first." And I think, of all the things we have in Boulder City that our city attorney will show us, it really comes down to the people and who we are. The city of Boulder City bought $1.2 million worth of land in El Dorado Valley, and since then we've allowed that place to have a economic boon for all of Las Vegas. where you have a place to put tortoises. So it allows people to grow and build and have wildlife preserved. We gave the land literally to I-11 when it came about. And so we are participating members in the greater Las Vegas area and appreciate the service that we get to do together with the other municipalities. I appreciated the conversations that have already happened. And before I go too long and bore you too much, I'm going to turn the time over with your permission, Mr. Chair, to Brittany Lee Walker.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Senate Government Affairs Committee. I'm Brittany Walker, City Attorney for Boulder City, and today I'd like to share with you a little more about our community and educate you on why we are a unique and integral piece of Nevada. Boulder City is historically significant to the development of our state. The Boulder Canyon Project Act, authorizing the construction of Hoover Dam, was signed by President Calvin Coolidge in 1928, just as the Great Depression was beginning. Construction was set to start in 1931, and 5,000 families came to work on the project. Boulder City was built to house the workers. The Bureau of Reclamation held title to the land, and the federal government essentially owned Boulder City. Construction was complete in 1936, 2 years ahead of schedule, and in 1958, the land was transferred from the federal government, and the city incorporated in 1960. At that time, Boulder City was about 33 square miles, a sixth of the size it is today. Some of the things that make us unique compared to the rest of Nevada is we have various initiative passed charter and city ordinances that set us apart. Since its incorporation, Boulder City has not allowed gaming. We're one of 2 jurisdictions in Nevada that prohibit gaming. And in 1979, as the mayor alluded to earlier, the voters passed an initiative petition for growth control, which limits the city to 120 residences a year and 30 per development. So this has kept our growth limited and even negative during the past 40 years. And while Boulder City acquired 167 square miles of federal land in 1995, the voters restricted how that land can be used, and land sales of larger than an acre must go to the voters for approval. We also have a limit on our city debt obligation. Anything over $1 million has to be approved by the voters. This effectively makes us a pay-as-you-go city, which has presented challenges, but I think in a large part has helped us. A little bit about our city council. You have our mayor here, Joe Hardy, with you, as you know, as your former colleague. We also have 4 council members elected at large: our mayor pro tem, Sherry Jorgensen, Councilwoman Koki Booth, Councilwoman Denise Ashurst, and Councilman Steve Walton. Our appointed officials, right now we have an acting city manager. Our new city manager was selected and will be starting later this year. We'll be excited to welcome him aboard. Tammy McKay is our city clerk. I'm in the city attorney for the past 4 years, and Victor Miller is our interim municipal judge. As the mayor touched on earlier, Boulder City prides itself on being a regional partner, playing a key role in the economic development of southern Nevada. With the purchase of the El Dorado Valley, we set aside the significant portion of this land, 86,000 acres out of 100,000 that was set aside in Clark County for tortoise conservation, and this allowed the valley to receive our incidental take permit so that the valley could continue to grow. Additionally, we donated 780 acres of land to the state of Nevada for the I-11, which helps in the rapid movement of ground transportation of people, goods, and services, and contributes to the strengthening of southern Nevada's economy. And whether it was Boulder City's agreement to a 99-year lease to the state of Nevada to help with the building of the Southern Nevada Railroad Museum, or partnering with the Park Service to provide life safety support for Lake Mead National Recreation Area, Boulder City is a strong partner with other government agencies to provide regional benefits to residents and tourists. We recently revamped our strategic plan. We rely on our strategic plan to ensure that we're making progress and achieving our goals and our mission for our community. Our goals are set forth here in the slide: maintain a high-quality recreation and tourism offerings, continue achieving prudent financial stewardship, maintaining community character through our growth control ordinance, continue promoting historic preservation, maintaining dependable, reliable infrastructure, improving public health and accessibility, and continuing to maintain high levels of public safety. We also value transparency in government. We have a public records portal available on our website that has most of our public records available to the public to search at their leisure. So you don't have to make a public records request with us. You can actually go on and pull most of our records yourself. Of course, we're always happy to assist in that, but we like to make as much available as we can. We also recently implemented a program called Socrata. Socrata is a finance tool that allows for open data in our government. You can go on our website and essentially it's an open checkbook. You can see any check the city has written to any vendor and see what the government is spending money on. So we have our budgets of 48 million is our general fund, our enterprise funds. All of that is available on our website, our spending and payroll, top vendors. These are just screenshots that you can see. Here is a breakdown of our revenues. So like most governments that we're presenting today, we do rely heavily on C-tax. It's a third of our revenue. We also have been able to diversify our income through rents and royalties. The parts of the El Dorado Valley that we did not set aside for conservation, we have leased out largely to solar developers, and that brings in revenues that account for about a third of our budget. And as far as federal grants, we do seek federal grants. We've been awarded or have submitted for about $11 million in federal grants this year. Some to highlight, we received $1.5 million for our air traffic control tower for our airport, which will help improve our safety. We have received $40,000 in community development block grant funding that goes to support our local nonprofits. We received $2 million for a dark skies grant that will help replace our public light fixtures so that we can achieve a dark skies designation and hopefully receive that designation and have the dark skies tourism industry. We also received $100,000 for water smart meters, which we are currently updating, and we are seeking $4.6 million for electrical vehicle charging infrastructure and $580,000 for FEMA assistance to firefighters. This is an overview of our expenditures. We have 17 parks and 2 municipal golf courses. Culture and recreation are a large part of our budget at 18%. Public works accounts for about 20%. Like most local governments, you see public safety is a very large portion of our budget. General fund at 40%. Then we have our general government, judicial, and community support. We have 224 full-time equivalent employees for our 10 departments, which includes a police department and a fire department, and as I mentioned before, an airport. Many of the buildings that we were given in 1960 are still in use today. So while historic in value, we have a number of challenges to our facilities. We have accessibility issues in some buildings, such as City Hall seen here, which was built in 1931. Our police department has walls of poured concrete, making it very difficult to renovate it. Because of limited staffing, our staff does multiple jobs. For example, our utility billing supervisor is also our director of business license. We have 8 collective bargaining units total. We're proud to report that we do have the lowest crime rate in the state. We have 39 sworn officers and have not faced the challenges that other communities have faced with recruiting and retention thus far. Part of the questions we were asked to address today was whether we intend to assist the federal immigration efforts. In response, I'd like to share a quote from our police chief, Tim Shea. "Our job is to protect the public. We follow state law and have no authority to enforce federal law. We will not arrest someone solely because they're undocumented." Our fire department responds to 2,600 calls annually. 87% of those are EMS. We're proud to report we were the 4th nationally accredited fire department in the state. We received that in March 2023. And we partnered with our business community to implement an AED CPR program where we placed AED defibrillators in businesses and then trained them on how to use them in the event of emergency. Our fire department has also been active in reaching out to the unhoused. For those experiencing homelessness, we began a partnership with Boulder City Hospital. They have a community resource liaison that's partially funded by the city, and they conduct weekly community outreach. They go out and they contact the individuals experiencing homelessness. Over the last 2 years, there's been over 150 contacts, resulting in 80 referrals for assistance. This is an overview of our schools. We have 2 elementary schools where we are CCSD, and we also have a junior high school and our Boulder City High School. And while our city holds that small old-fashioned charm, it's important to note that our residents skew older. Our census data gives us a good look at our population. Our 15,000 residents compared to Clark County's 2.3 million. Our median age is 51.1, whereas Clark County is 37.5. In addition, nearly a third of our residents are over 65, and less than half of our adults are in the workforce. 10.8% of our residents are veterans. Boulder City is home to one of 2 state veterans' homes and the State Veterans Cemetery in Southern Nevada. So why are these numbers important? Because more than a third of our residents live on fixed incomes. Agencies like Emergency Aid of Boulder City, Lend a Hand, and our Senior Center all ask the city for support from eligible ARPA funds due to an increased need in past years. And the need for assistance with utility bills and rent has increased substantially, and our fire department has also seen more calls for service. Another thing that sets Boulder City apart is we own and operate our own electrical distribution system and provide our residents with electricity. So unlike our neighbors that utilize NV Energy, we are a not-for-profit government-owned utility, and our utility is subject to the Boulder City Council. So Boulder City Council sets the rates. We are not governed by the Public Utilities Commission. We don't own or operate any generation resources, but we obtain all of our needs from existing power purchase agreements in the open market. We are a leader in clean energy, getting most of our power from hydropower and 5 megawatts a year from solar. And we employ 12 people in our electric division, and when the power goes out, even on nights, weekends, or holidays, our crews respond. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the land that we have in the El Dorado Valley has been leased to solar energy developers. So this is a picture of those companies, the acreage that has been leased, and what the megawatts that they produce. We only purchase 5 megawatts of that. NV Energy does purchase some, and a lot of California utilities also purchase from these developers. We have tourism draws that contribute to our state economy with the Southern Nevada Railroad Museum, Hoover Dam, the Lake Mead National Recreation Area, which sees more than 5 million visitors a year. And Boulder City, jointly with Henderson, was recently designated by the National Park Service as a World War II American Heritage City. We are home of the Ram Cam. If you have ever heard of Hemingway Park in Boulder City, it's a very special place where anyone can go and see our bighorn sheep. And they come naturally. They've come to this place for many years, and they graze on our grass in the park. We were getting a lot of calls from the public saying, when are the sheep planning to come to the park? And we didn't have their schedule, so we didn't know when they would come. So we decided to install a camera so that visitors, if they wanted to come out and see the sheep, they could see ahead of time if they were there or not. Boulder City will be getting an adventure center. The U.S. Commerce Department awarded a grant to our local Chamber of Commerce, and this will be at the State Welcome Center and allow tourism companies to develop operations at a centralized location so visitors can schedule various activities like kayaking or your Hoover Dam tour, or we're hoping to bring back zip lining in Boot Lake Canyon soon. All of these companies will be housed in this one location where visitors can come and book all of their adventures. Just to highlight a few major projects completed, we completed Railroad Museum Road. The state will be building the visitor center there, so we're very supportive of that state-funded project and want that to continue. We also recently installed a new welcome sign, so as you come into our community, you will see this Home of the Boulder City Eagles sign celebrating our high school Eagles with 135 state championships. One more thing I wanted to highlight before I conclude, this with regard to language and ADA accessibility. The city does provide all election materials in both English, Spanish, and Tagalog. Offers public safety employees bilingual incentives. Our website is translatable and ADA accessible. We also recently installed a hearing loop in our council chambers so those with hearing impairment can receive feed directly into their hearing aids to participate in our meetings. And we offer closed captioning on all of our public meeting recordings. So with that, Chair and members, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. I think, Ms. Walker, you're the only city attorney we've ever had in this committee who said you are always happy to help with public record requests. I don't think any other jurisdiction has ever said that. Because we know that they're always easy to fulfill, correct?
We definitely have our challenges, but I think most local governments in this state are committed to public transparency, and as are we.
And I said it jokingly. I know how owners that can be in, how that can be weaponized against some of our jurisdictions at times. We'll start off with Senator Krasner, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation. It's really great to see you here. I just have some questions because I'm very new to the details of Boulder City. So this growth control ordinance, most cities want people to move to their city. Most states want people to move to their state. So I'm a little bit curious about what that is and how do you keep people out?
Thank you, Chair. May I go direct to the member?
Please do go direct.
Brittany Walker, for the record. Thank you, Senator Krasner, for the question. It's a great question. We, of course, we have open doors to anybody who wants to come to Boulder City, but we do have a limited housing inventory, and it can be challenging. With the growth ordinance, it was passed by our voters, and so it's an initiative petition passed ordinance that was passed in 1979. And the process that a developer would go through, or anyone interested in building a residence, we have an allotment committee, and so they would apply for the allotments, and then the allotment committee would meet and determine how many allotments to give them. We have, believe it or not come close in recent years to that 120 number. We are limited to 30 per development, so we have done some larger developments it has been a bit of a challenge for developers. So a lot of times what they'll do is apply for 30 in June, and then the year starts over in July, so they'll get the next 30 in July so they can build 60 that year. But it's very supported by our residents, and it has worked. It has worked.
Well, I just have a couple.
Please follow.
So I'm trying to understand. So you limit the building and construction industry's ability to build houses, and then you don't allow a complete industry, the gaming industry, to come in and build a facility? Money in their free time?
Thank you, Senator Krasner. Brittany Walker, for the record. Essentially, that is correct. We do limit how many residences can be constructed. So without the allotment, the residents would not get approved for a building permit to construct the home. We do have exceptions. There's exceptions for owner builders. There's exceptions for affordable housing for low income and seniors. So we do have exceptions to that. But essentially, yes, we do limit the builders that can come and build and how many per year. And we do, to answer your question about gaming, we have prohibited gaming since we were founded by the federal government. There used to be 2 gates on either side of Boulder City, and there was no gaming, alcohol, or prostitution allowed within those gates. And the prohibition ended in Boulder City did end up lifting the liquor restriction, but we have never allowed gaming in our boundaries.
Wow, I'm sorry, just a little bit. So if more than the number of people want houses and you have an allotment, how do you choose who gets to move there and who doesn't?
Senator Krasner, thank you for the question. Brittany Walker for the record. We don't choose who gets to move anywhere. We limit who can build a home. So anyone can, of course, move to Boulder City anytime they want and purchase a home or rent a home. But if they want to build a new home, then they have to go through the allotment process. And the allotment committee ranks and evaluates the applications. We haven't had a situation where there's been so much competition that we weren't able to accommodate all of the builders that wish to build at a time that I'm aware of. So at least in recent history, it has worked, but essentially the allotment committee is given that authority. The allotment committee chooses, if that were a situation, whom would get allotments and so, yeah.
I promise, last one. So, like, when I'm looking, because multiple cities have given presentations today, I'm looking at the one that Las Vegas gave. They talk about their demographics: white, 40%, Hispanic, 33%, African-American, 12%, Asian, 7%, other, 6.9. You guys don't include your demographics. So what's the makeup of your city?
Thank you, Senator Krasner. Brittany Walker for the record. Our makeup is about 86% Caucasian. We have about between 7 and 8% Latino, Hispanic, and then it goes on from there. I think African Americans a little less than 2%, Asians a little less than 2%. So we are primarily, our demographic makeup is Caucasian.
If I may, Miss.
Please do.
One of the things that we do is we believe in helping people. So we have St. Jude's Ranch for Children, which are a vital part of our basketball team, our football team, our school, and et cetera. And so just recently, we dedicated the St. Jude's Healing Center for people who are victims of sex trafficking. And we deliberately want to help people. And so that those are a vital part of our community, is looking for people that we can actually help. There are no limits on who can live in Boulder City, who can build in Boulder City, except the number of homes, as it were, have to go through. We've never reached that limit. And obviously, you have to buy a piece of land in order to build on something, but the limitation is just who can build. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next, we'll go to Senator Ellison, please.
Do I call you doctor? Do I call you senator? And now mayor? You've done a great job for our state, no matter where you're at. You're fantastic. You've been a very good person, a very good friend, and you've done a great job for the state. I want to thank you. I have some questions here. Based on the geographic of the town and the city, and you got a control tower going in, I mean, do you have that many flights going in there?
Yes, believe it or excuse me, Chair, Senator Ellison, Brittany Walker for the record. We do have a significant amount. We don't have any commercial flights. I forgot the level tier airport we are, but we have general aviation, so we have private aircraft owners who fly in and out, but we do have some commercial tourism, fixed base operators that operate helicopter tours and things of that nature. So we do qualify for the level of traffic, and when you're not a controlled airport, the pilots essentially are communicating with each other to determine when to land, when to take off, and there has been some close calls, and so having a control tower would really improve the safety and operations at the airport.
Like the old Unicom system and this kind of stuff, but control towers, I mean, if you got that much traffic, then you probably do need it. The last thing, you said one thing and it stuck to my mind, and it said under the police department, it says, you have very low crime, but you say you don't allow any kind of federal arrest in there. But you receive federal funding and stuff, does that create a problem?
Thank you, Senator Ellison. Brittany Walker for the record. Well, no peace officer in the state is authorized to enforce federal law. We enforce state law. So all police officers in our state do. So of course, if any person is violating the law, we will take appropriate action, arrest if necessary, if it calls for that. But there was a question from the chair on whether the state, our police department would be, our intentions to assist immigration with federal enforcement. And we follow state law. So we will do what the state legislature tells us to do. And so that's where our authority is. So we would not arrest someone for being undocumented. If there was a crime committed, but that's a different story. But just for that sole reason, that's not.
Follow up, sir. And the only reason it stuck in my mind is say you've got a lot of illegal trafficking going through with trucks and drugs and stuff like this, and a lot of that's federal law. So that's good to get it on the record. Yes, I mean, if there's a federal law broke, like with methanol and some of these other things, it's good to know that they'll still be arrested.
Absolutely, yes. And if it's a federal jurisdiction, if there is a large enough, if we pull over and there's a large enough, say, narcotic situation, and it's a crossing state line situation, we bring in the appropriate federal agency, the DEA, or we work with the federal government in that circumstance. And we do actually we have seized a large amount of narcotics, given our proximity to I-11. Our police department does, I would say on a regular basis, they have made some pretty large narcotic seizures.
Thank you, and I thought that's what it was. I just wanted to ask that question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Members, any additional questions? Senator Neal, please.
I was reading it's your projected budget for 26 through 2030, like the website. It was showing that you guys have a 1.3% drop in your property tax due to, it looks like houses aging out. So in your limited growth, how do you guys plan on, I guess, dealing with your aged out properties and then your limited growth on top of that, right? Because it's affecting your property tax revenue. So is there a strategy? Do you guys have a conversation, say, hey, it looks like our property tax is dropping because, house is, 50 years old and it's no longer going to be assessed. And so we need to replace this value with a new home.
Thank you, Senator Neal. Brittany Walker for the record. I have not been in those direct conversations. Those are more finance related, but that is a great observation, and I will definitely pose that question to our finance staff and bring that back. We have been somewhat insulated from the decreased revenues in traditional government tax revenue sources because of our solar leasing. We've been able to again insulate ourselves from those fluctuations a little bit. But that revenue doesn't grow very high either. Those increases are about 1% per year. So that's a great question and something I will pose to our finance staff and get back to you on.
Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, I think you made a mistake in letting Senator Ellison know that you're getting a control tower. Now he's going to be flying his private jets in there. We've heard that He has too much fun in the air and does maneuvers that are not always allowed. With that, we appreciate you all being here, and we look forward to working with you as well throughout session. Please reach out if we could help you with anything, and I know you'll get back to Senator Neal with some of those questions. Thank you both for the presentation. With that, we'll go ahead and close it out. And lastly, on the agenda, we have public comment. I will first invite those wishing to join us here in Carson City for public comment to please come forward. Seeing none. Next, I'd like to invite those in Las Vegas. If you could please step forward. It is an empty room, so I'm going to take that as no public comment from Las Vegas. BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us via the phone?
Thank you, Chair. Your public line is open and working, but you have no callers at this time.
Thank you. Again, thank you for the questions, and to our presenters, we appreciate you being here today and joining us late. With that, I'd like to remind everybody we'll be back in this room on Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. This meeting's adjourned.